Hey, welcome back to another episode of Chalk and Cheese. I'm Dan, this is Chase, and today we are talking about premierships.
All right, Kimbo, I wanted to get into my man. Out of all sports, right, you normally have a league and you have a cup. A lot of them have a league and a cup together, besides sort of my EPL and a lot of the European soccer leagues.
Yeah.
But which do you think is harder to win? A 18 to 30 something game league or a cup tournament where you get one game and you're done?
Yeah, I think like UEFA Champions League
Yeah.
just finished, and I think that's probably the pinnacle for your soccer or football over in Europe. And I think if we look at teams that come from their club competition, so Barcelona,
Yeah.
they seem to be able to put a full season together more often than not and take out the La Liga.
Yeah.
But then it comes to the UEFA Champions League, and Madrid are just built for flipping
The one game,
Championship Cup.
yeah.
So
Yeah, actually, that's a good example when you go, all right, so Barcelona's won the league, but Real Madrid's won the
Yeah.
Champions League 4 out of the last, something crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's one of the points I was sort of looking at when I thought of this, is where when you have your cup right, a lot of good teams or maybe good players can step up for that one game or that 2 game series, right? And they
Yeah.
step up. But over the 36 game series, if you have 3 bad games and you take 3 losses,
Yeah.
a lot of these leagues with the really good teams, there's not a lot of teams are fighting for, but the top 2 or 3, it ends up being close and it comes down to sort of 1 or 2 games where you
Yeah.
haven't done your job or you haven't beaten the team that's 16th on the
Yeah.
league or something. So I think over a season, the league is just crazy because you got to be consistent.
Yeah.
You got to get points in the bag. You need some luck as well. But I don't know, cup runs. I always think of a cup run where an unlikely team can have a run and make it to the final.
Yeah.
Or, do you know what I mean?
Well,
And
yeah,
I think that happens more in a cup than it does.
yeah, well,
in
if
a
you
league.
just look at the NBA playoffs, like Heat were nowhere.
Yeah.
They're coming 8th, and
Yeah.
then they get a chance to go to the actual championship games. Obviously, they got done by the Nuggets, but
Yeah.
I think, for that aspect, it does give the 8th, 6th, 7th, whatever,
Anyone a chance, yeah.
chance to come up. And if they can put it together for 5 games, like, good on them.
Yeah. And see, that's where I sort of, when I was thinking about which would be harder to win, I thought the league, because of you sort of got to be consistent over a long period, but the leagues, you can have mishaps and still win it.
Yeah.
But in a cup game, if you have an off night, and I know NBA players might not be a good one because you get 7 games to sort
Yeah.
of fix it up.
Yeah.
But if you look at the NFL, you get to the playoffs and you're playing the wild card game or you get 1 game.
Yeah.
And if you start
Yeah.
the first 2 quarters off and you're down, you could be out.
Yeah.
And you've had a great season. You've won 15 out of your 17 league
Yeah.
games, and it all comes to nothing
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you get to the knockout stage. So that's where I was leading. Ooh, maybe the knockouts are harder because you've got to be on when you're
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And the league, you can have it off. But I think that the cup gives how can I say, the cup, that's where your timing and a lot comes into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you get a lucky break in a quarterfinal, you can go all the way through
Yeah.
to the final. If
Yeah.
you get a lucky draw
Yeah.
and you don't verse,
Yeah, well, if you look at all like the World Cup for any sport,
Yeah.
really, but it's just like a heightened sense of pressure for
Yeah.
you to perform. But I think also the pressure from like the outside noise. There's a lot of like I don't watch a lot of soccer, but when
Yeah.
the World Cup is on, I'm watching it.
you know, yeah.
So it's like the theatre of it, which is quite good. And the UEFA Champions League, obviously, they have 2 legs, or they have 3
Yeah,
legs,
two
legs.
yeah.
But it's all about timing. But on the other end of that, if you get an injury and you've got 1 game to try and get through,
yeah.
you can't get that. Excuse me, you can't get that back. So then again, the next player up's got that pressure on them
Yeah,
as well.
you're right though, because you think about it, if you missing your best player for the cup game, what do? You could miss your best player for probably 2 league games if you
Yeah.
played a 38 game season, then you could still come back and win it. So injuries, destroy you a little bit more in cup than they do in league.
Well, with the AFL Grand Final last year, they Max Holmes was one of the players of the final series for Geelong. did his hamstring in the prelim. They sat him out, and then Sydney had one of their key defenders, Reed, I think it was, who was like questionable, and they
played him.
They rolled the dice, and it didn't come off.
Yeah.
And then they just left this huge hole in their playing squad.
Yeah, and that's where I think when you think of a league, there's not really. I don't know. I think a lot of sports use the league just to get positions for the knockout and the playoffs.
Yeah.
And like I said, besides our sort of European soccer where they have their league title and their league title stands on its own.
Yeah.
If you win that, you win it. You're the champions. That's it. A lot of other sports, NBA, NFL, our AFL, NRL, they have their leagues to get your position and then finish the premiership. So you might still come first. And I think you get a little shield for coming first, or your little premiers.
Like just a minor premiers.
Yeah. But I might be wrong, but I think the prize money for winning the premiers plate is like 100,000, and then for winning the premiership is $1 million or so.
Yeah.
You're like, so I think a lot of sports, it's more, that's what they use to keep their fans entertained.
Yeah.
And keep their season going longer than it needs to. Because you feel like we could just have a knockout 18 game. Like 18 AFL teams playing, you lose you out 4 weeks and we're done. And we're done. And the comp's over. But the league sort of, you just try to get to the end, get your position. Then
it's also the theatre of the finals, I reckon. Like if you watch all the ones that go for the final series, everyone's grand final has some sort of entertainment, ad revenue and all that. So that's why there can be more money coming into it.
And I think one of the flaws sort of with the league is Man City, they won it with 4 games left.
Yeah.
So you had 3 games left with teams playing, and there were other positions teams were fighting who's getting relegated, which I like to. But the champions were picked.
Yeah.
It was over.
But that can also happen in the final series. So if you've got top 4 locked in, like also you got to still win some games. But if you've got an easier draw running in, you can rest a lot of players.
Yeah.
And then try and build for that run for the final series.
Yeah. So I think with the league, though, if we sort of just look at fairness of a competition, the league has to stand out above the cup. Because you always hear the cup, the better teams
win on the day.
Yeah. But but it's, I don't think that's always the case.
Yeah.
And you can always, like we said, Miami Heat coming from 8th to first. But Bucks are a better team than them. But they won there.
Yeah.
So are they the better team? So one of the things I sort of struggle with the cup is it fair for all the teams competing? Especially, I know they try to do with put them in your regions with the ball and you draw your versus that team. So to try and make the pools as fair as they can. But sometimes you watch a Champions League draw and you get a horror draw.
Yeah.
You're versing like 3 teams that were top 3 in their leagues, and you're like, there's no chance you're going to come out of that. And then you look at another pool, and it's the Ukrainian league, and like, you know what I mean? It's is that fair for a cup competition? So I don't know. Like when I think of just the fairness of a comp, I like the league. You verse everyone twice. You play it over 6 months. Whoever's top, you know that team's top.
Yeah. Well, if you just think about like our tipping competition.
Yeah. Oh, sheesh. Don't you bring
if you have one good round and everyone doesn't, it's still hard to try and maintain that.
Yeah.
And like I had one perfect round, which put me like 5 ahead, but then people are still coming for you.
Yeah.
You get one, they get one win on you every week for a month, and they catch you. So obviously, it's not highly competitive, but in that same instance, when you have teams that can sort of put it together and they can manage their injuries, I guess, and try and push for a run later, they're always relatively in the competition if they're in the top 4, top 6.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, Man City wrapped up the
league,
the Premier League with 4 games to go. Like, and good on them.
Yeah. How
dumb would it be if they did lock in that top spot with 4 rounds to go, and then have to go play a final series and then lose?
Yeah.
So,
and that's why I don't know. Like when you think about shoot sports, but I think it's. I don't know, was it a culture you called, like a sport culture? Because NRL, AFL, NBA, a lot of us don't really care about the first place. Yes, they don't really. So, and there's no way you're sort of changing that because that's what it is. But the way I like a league because of, like I said, it keeps it fair for everyone participating. But I like the cup for watching one game and knowing your team's going to win. So I'm like, when I think about it, I'm like, I couldn't say I choose one over another, but I think I'd lean towards a cup.
As a spectator?
Yeah, more
I think
than the league.
Because obviously you got your top 8 that all have a chance to go. Obviously, 7 and 8 rarely get there, although the Bulldogs did it a few years ago. Heat got to the final this year, coming 8th. But I think as a spectator, like your last month of footy or your last month of whatever, basketball, you can sort of gauge, we lost a couple, but we're still going to play finals, and extends that season for all the supporters.
Yeah.
And then it almost like starts again.
Yeah.
Final series, like anyone's winning.
It's 0-0 now, and who's gonna come through and get it? And that's where, like, I think a league cup that a lot of these World Cup does, Champions League sort of does, and even when I think of the NFL and NBA. NFL, NBA plays so many. Well, NFL doesn't. 18 games. NBA plays so many.
Yeah, like
but the NBA doesn't
games.
go. I'll need to check, but I don't think they go, you've got to verse everyone 3 times.
No.
They just play games. And I don't know. And same with the NFL. Some seasons you play teams 3 times, some you play. Like, there's no you versing all 17 teams. Once you've got that, you get into your divisions. So I don't know. And I watch one of my sports shows, and the guys talking about they rank all the draws, like which is the harder one, which is the easier one. And I'm like, if you're versing everyone the same, there shouldn't be no.
But those rankings, like, because Geelong's AFL, their draw's fairly similar each year. But depending on the hardness of the draw is how other teams are going at the time. So they've played the same teams for the first 6 weeks. And they used to play Carlton early and Collingwood early before they were good. And everyone's like, it's the easiest draw. They're playing them now when they're running all right. And then it's competitive. So
does AFL, do you have to play everyone twice?
No, because they got 24, 23 rounds, I think. I think you play everyone once and there's a few doubles.
Okay.
But it's not as bad as the NRL.
So NRL's better.
NRL's garbage.
I didn't see the NRL draw. Did they play
the Broncos played the Knights twice in 5 weeks or something like that.
Take that win.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I don't know. Like, so now my EPL and a lot of those European leagues is you play everyone twice, home and away.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's like, if you got the resource to do that, then that's the fairest way to do it.
The fun thing is, I wonder if that's where NRL and AFL will go, because they just want more games and more games. So when you play in a 48-week league season to verse the 25, and then our finals.
Yeah.
Because I think a league to me is sort of for, I wouldn't say die-hard fans, but it's for the fans that big week in, week out, watching your team.
Yeah, it's like a travelling circus.
Yes, when you get to a cup, it's who's jumped. I don't know, like when we had bandwagon sports, you'll have someone that's watching this team now because they're doing well in the cup.
Like, that's like when the Bulldogs won. Was it 5, 6 years?
Yeah.
But Geelong didn't make the finals, so I'm like, all right, well, who's the next team I'll support just in this time? I'm not going to buy their gear, but it's like you want to keep watching the game.
NFL, and that's where. So I don't know if I lean towards it. I don't know if I'm 60-40. I like a league more because when I see a league winner, I go, you know what, that was the best team.
Yeah.
Overall, a cup, you always get those outliers that do a good job and win it, and you go, that's not the best team. But on their day, they won every game. So I
think that's the excitement of the cup.
Yeah. So as a fan, I don't know.
Which one's harder though?
See, I think. Oh, I had that. I had cup. Cup was harder because I said the league gives you a chance to make a few mistakes.
Yeah.
The league gives you a chance to make a few mistakes and you can still win it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying if you get to the 38-game season and you're tied with someone and you make a mistake.
Yeah.
And that's the cup.
Yeah.
Every game.
Yeah.
And I think about it as well. The cups are always our sort of big world tournaments because they only get 6 weeks to do it. So when you're playing a game that you know you're not going to play for another 4 years, representing your country.
But I think if you think of the amount of pressure around it, like you'll play in the Premier League, like Man City will go play Albion, or whatever it's called.
Brighton,
Brighton, that one. And a small field, not a small field, like small stadium, not many people there. You play a final series like AFL, MCG, Perth.
100,000 every year.
like 60,000 supporters every week. So I think the cup is harder to win because you got to put the season together and then back up for another 6 weeks almost to try and you're only playing the best teams in that 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Whereas you can go stack points against the bottom 8 teams.
Yeah, but see, I don't know. That's why if we sort of have in that League Cup, which is harder, AFL, NRL, NBA, NFL, we can't compare those leagues to their cup because their league or their round robin games mean nothing. You just get in your position to get to the cup. So their cups, all the pressure's on there. My EPL, if I just went with English soccer, they separate their cup. So they have their English soccer and then they have the FA Cup and then they have the League Cup.
Yeah.
Winning the League Cup and the FA Cup, I thought it'd be better if I could win the league.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
and then,
okay.
do you know what I mean? So when we compare the AFL Premiership, I'm always going to choose the AFL, Cup, and NRL, I'm going to choose the Cup, NBA. It's just because their leagues, there's nothing, I don't know, their leagues are just designed to get you through to the Cup.
Yeah.
But the only true one, I think, where we can compare the leagues is, and that's all over in European soccer. It's their leagues are standalone.
Yeah.
You win it. And I don't know, maybe because Australian soccer, we've tried to copy the best of all of it. Because Australian soccer has their league.
Yeah.
Then they still have their cup.
Yeah.
And then they try have an Australian cup.
I think in the Premier League and all over in Europe, because they have relegation, it needs to be
as fair as it can.
Averaged over a full season. Not like you lost a final, you're playing down a division next year. So I think that's probably the biggest
to keep it going. Yeah. So you think a cup's harder?
I think I think a cup is harder from a player's perspective, and it's better to watch from a spectator perspective.
Hey, it's just because the Brisbane Lions, they're not getting 40,000 each week to go watch them at the Gabba now, but when they get a final game,
I think a cup's harder.
Okay, so let us know what you think. Cup, league. Which you think's harder to win?
Which one's worth more?
Which one's worth more?
Yeah.
Because I'm the soccer guy. He's the
obviously
soccer, so AFL. So you can see where he thinks. But besides my World Cup, my favorite trophy is my English Premier League. What would you think's your favorite trophy for your team to win?
AFL always AFL Premiership.
Cup, league, league number 1. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with another episode next week. Make sure to like and make sure to subscribe. Thank you.